Over the last couple of days, the whales have been purchasing up BTC. This is the opposite to the perception that is currently being made within the Twitter space. In this video, I'm going to be jumping down into the on-chain metrics to take a look at exactly what has been going on with the BTC whales and the BTC retail investors. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out, guys. Linked in the description down below. It is a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. So why not go ahead and check it out? If you're looking for a little bit more from the crypto space, why not check out the Patreon services or become a member here on YouTube via the join button down below. We offer a lot more for our members, so why not check it out in the description below. Let's make a start with everything that's going on here. We're going to try to get through this video and give you as much of this information as possible so you can make more informed decisions, and let me know in the comments below as well whether you are bullish or bearish by the time you've watched this video. Let's jump on up into our on-chain metrics to start with. Okay, guys, so we've seen a dramatic change over the last 48 hours with the inflows, with the outflows, where the money and where the Bitcoin is flowing to, okay? So up here in the top right-hand corner, we have three boxes. The inflows of Bitcoin onto exchanges since the 1st of January 2023. The Bitcoin flowing off the exchanges since the 1st of January 2023, and then the difference between those two numbers. Okay, so 1.8206 million Bitcoin goes onto the exchanges, 1.8214 million comes off the exchanges, meaning that exchanges have technically lost, or Bitcoin has come away from the exchanges, 748 Bitcoin. It's not a lot, but we were at 6,000 Bitcoin only a matter of 4 hours ago, positive on the exchanges. So we've seen some Bitcoin getting soaked up recently, which is the opposite direction of what we have seen for the last few months or so, where we saw it kind of going more on. Now, to just note, this is incredibly neutral. It's not bullish, it's not bearish. The numbers are too small to really kind of swing it in either direction. We are just kind of dancing around inflows and outflows. A lot of inflows and then a lot of outflows and then so forth, right? So we end up with a very neutral market. Now, this is very much essentially what we see over here with this really sideways traded exchange balance, right? We can see that the balance of Bitcoin on the exchanges has just been going sideways since mid December 2022, right? We can kind of see that. We also see it here on the net change difference, where over at the FTX saga, we saw a lot of outflows from the exchanges, a lot of people not trusting the exchanges, then it flowed right the way back on and became very neutral. So the market from an inflow outflow point of view, or supply and demand point of view, is neutral. However, we should consider what that means, because it means that participants are not quite where you want them to be. Because what we want to do is we want to see significant surge in demand. But instead, all you're really seeing is whatever demand comes in is being equally met by the supply. And that's actually the very definition of bearish, right? And bearish would be that the supply outpaces that of the demand. But obviously, as I said, it is neutral because these numbers are so small that it kind of swings both ways. Now, I'm not going to talk about the hodl waves in this video, but essentially they are just aging well for the most part. If we take a look at the inflows and the outflows, you can see how they're all kind of being matched up. There isn't terribly too much to kind of note other than recently where we saw a little bit of a surge to the upside. We saw 36,000 going onto the exchanges and 40,000 coming off. And then yesterday, in the last 24 hours, we saw 29,000 going on and 37,000 coming off. Now, I think this is going to change a bit because we saw a lot of inflows to exchanges. I think yesterday, later part of yesterday, and I don't know if that's been included in here yet or not. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. Now, as we kind of get into the Bitcoin wallets, this is where we start to actually analyze where the Bitcoin is flowing to and where it's flowing from. So we can see here that we have Bitcoin dust. Basically, this is wallets that have over 0.01 BTC in them. Now, here we can see that we have 11,589,876 wallets, which is higher than it was a few weeks ago when we hit a low of 11,471,536 wallets. Okay, now this has happened as prices retraced, but we did previously drop down 100,000 wallets, and now we've just gone up 100,000 wallets essentially. Okay, so it's not actually bullish or bearish. It's basically just they were selling, now they've accumulated again. And we want to kind of consider that these retail investors are the most vulnerable ones. I would expect these guys to get shaken out of the space before anyone else, should that time come. Okay, let's move over and we'll take a look at the other retail investors. There's 3 retail investors here. We have the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗧, which is basically a wallet that has over 0.1 Bitcoin in it. We have 𝗕𝗪𝗧, which is over 1 Bitcoin in it. And then dolphins, over 10 Bitcoin in their wallets. So we can see that these have all accumulated massively during the FTX saga. We can see that moving up. That was basically just people going to self-custody rather than, you know, just using an exchange to hold their crypto, okay? It's not your keys, not your crypto, all that kind of usual stuff. So if you haven't already got yourself a cold storage device, you should probably do some research. We like Ledger. There's a link to Ledger down below. The only thing I would say to you guys about hardware wallets is make sure you buy it directly from the manufacturer to protect yourself from any fakes and hacked devices out there. It's not worth the risk to buy one on eBay or Amazon, for example. To save $10, you might as well buy it directly from the manufacturer and get that peace of mind. So when we see these retail wallets all accumulating, it helps us wonder, it makes us kind of think, you know, okay, cool, what's going on here? Why do we see these guys continuing to buy, considering the economic climate is not great? I reckon there's a push here to kind of get as much retail investors into the market with all the bullish talk, and I think that's about to turn. We saw a little bit of this yesterday with some of the news around interest rate hikes likely to be higher than expected. Inflation is still running rampant, which is no surprise to us on this channel. We've been talking about this all the time and how we ultimately believe that the Fed made a big catastrophic mistake with their last rate hike. So I expect it to be more extreme. Expect the dials to be turned up. I don't think this is going to be anything pretty, and I think a lot of retail investors are going to get really, really hurt. I saw a stat the other day that said that 1/3 of people in the UK do have zero in savings, like zero pounds sterling in their savings account, and then another third has less than 1,000, which basically means that 2/3 of people in the UK are absolutely fucked when it comes to kind of their savings accounts and all of that kind of stuff. It's not a pretty picture by any stretch of the imagination. Now, it could be that in various different parts of the world, that's a different stat, and it could be a little bit positive in other pockets of the world. But essentially, I don't think that's really realistic, and I do think there's a lot of retail investors that are going to succumb to selling pressure, not because they want to or they're afraid to. I think it's just going to be a necessity. Essentially, it's keep a roof over your head or keep your Bitcoin. And I think, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of retail investors that get hurt. Now, as we jump up into the kind of institutional level and the smart money funds, this is where things get interesting. We can see that those whales have made a bit of a U-turn. Okay, so they came down quite massively down here. Now, this is a wallet that has over 1,000 Bitcoin. Okay, and we saw this come down to 2002. They're now rocking up here at 2015 wallets. This is a pretty big spike for these wallets. We don't normally see them move like this to this degree this fast. And the reason that I kind of opened this video and saying it's a bit different than what we were expecting is we saw a lot of alerts yesterday with a lot of Bitcoin flowing towards Bitcoin flowing towards Coinbase, right? So basically the exchanges should have had a huge amount of inflows. Yet when I take a look at this data, that's not really what I'm seeing. This makes me wonder whether those alerts are actually accurate or not, because the data here doesn't represent that amount of inflows to exchanges. It actually shows us an outflow from exchanges, which makes this whole thing a little bit peculiar and a little bit strange. I'm not to say that it's not possible that we're getting both of these scenarios occur, because it could be possible that, you know, someone who has over 10,000 Bitcoin, maybe they've moved 1,000 Bitcoin to an exchange, but, you know, it's not going to show any change here because they've got like 20,000 Bitcoin, for example, right? So it's possible that that kind of stuff happens. That being said, I do think it's a bit of an unusual thing to have seen, considering the amount of interesting things that are occurring from a fundamental standpoint or an economic standpoint in the world, where we actually see a lot of negativity around the rate hikes, the inflation, and potentially unemployment with Silvergate Bank winding up. All these kind of things are incredibly bearish, yet we see this U-turn with these whale wallets, and we do not see any major selling pressure from retail investors, which, you know, is one of the catalysts that we should be looking for. So it's an interesting one. Now, the only other way this happens is some over-the-counter kind of trading was occurring, and maybe some Kraken-sized wallets sold a little bit of Bitcoin to these whales over the counter. Didn't involve an exchange. And therefore, we see that spike to the upside. Also possible that there's a cold storage devices up in the Kraken and just transferred to whales to maybe start selling. And that's why you see this uptake. Lots of reasons why we might see this spike in these wallets. Too soon to really know exactly how this is going to go, because normally you would expect to see retail wallets going down whilst this one is going up, because there's usually a transfer of kind of Bitcoin between participants. And at the moment, all we've really seen is whales going down and retail going up, as in the Bitcoin has been sold from whale wallets over to the retail wallets. And this is really visible when we take a look at a zoomed out view. Here's a 365-day view of the Bitcoin whales. Okay, and we can see this uptick right here. This is an unusual one. You don't normally see these very often. So the last one of these that we saw of this degree was up here in November. And then the time before that, I guess, was up here and up here. So it's going to be interesting. Now, the reason that you could see this, you could see a spike to the upside in price, or we could see a bit of a fake out and all that kind of stuff. Too soon to say for certain, but it's an interesting thing that we should be paying attention to. An uptake like this is what we're looking for, but we're not there yet. This could be a symbol or a signal, I should say, of the bottom being very close. It could be that the next drop to the downside is where these guys then really start to accumulate, and they're just doing their accumulation now, or starting their accumulation now. From our retail wallets, you can see here they're not yet shaken out, and the Kraken sized wallet still up here, just kind of hovering sideways. And to kind of give you kind of context, this is what we're expecting to happen with the Kraken sized wallet. This is what we're expecting to see happen from our whale wallets. You can see that there's slight uptick, and then they start to really purchase up as that bottom comes in, but they were buying before the bottom. Okay, you'll see they're buying before that bottom comes in, and it was the Kraken that created the bottom. Okay, the retail investors were selling into the bottom. Okay, so that's essentially what we're looking for. So ultimately, where we sit right now is we can see this uptick with our whale wallets. And basically, a number of wallets that have over 1,000 Bitcoin in them has gone up, whilst everything else seems to be either going sideways or slight accumulation to it. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. We don't really have the inflows and the outflows to see, to kind of see this kind of outflows from exchanges, which makes me feel it's over the counter or some kind of internal trading going on between Kraken and whales. But essentially, it's something that we're going to have to pay close attention to, because I think it's going to be something very important for where the next moves for Bitcoin occur. Now, when I jump back down into the charts and we take a look at this from a smart money concepts point of view, as I said, there's a lot of negativity right now, essentially in the kind of the crypto space and in the economic climate, that we should be thinking about a move to the downside. However, we cannot rule out a little bounce to the upside, liquidating any short positions before we actually move on down. And that could be another reason why we see an uptake with the number of whale wallets. Okay, we could see them loading up for a bit of a swing, trade opportunity, and then drop on the market and bringing us all the way back down. Expectations are a new lower low, and I've spoken about this before. Here's kind of the targeted range, 10,116 to 16,000. And yeah, anywhere in there would be basically a sufficient number to kind of say we're bottom is in and we're done. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is that this would be a W, X, Y, X, and Z. And you can't go down anymore in this structure. You'd have to have a reset. The reset would have to be 3 waves. It would be of significance, maybe 40K, something like that. And then you could potentially, from that higher range, then go down in another W, X, Y, X, Z. Okay, a lot of people are speculating that that's what we're doing now, and we could kind of have that reset up towards 30, 35K. That's possible. And then we have a drop down. And again, I speculated to that, I think, on our weekly chart, not this one. This one, where we have this kind of big A, B, and C structure, and that's essentially what that would be. So again, it still looks like we have that move to the downside. So we have to be a little bit cautious here. W, X, Y, X, Z gives us some clear targets. A, B, C, not yet clear, because B wave is unpredictable, and until B wave completes, we don't know how low C wave will go. But ultimately, one of the things that we do know is there isn't a lot of institutional funds coming in, only really retail at the moment, although we have got a slight change in that data now, which has given me a little bit of ground for positivity, but do expect price to come down, because the bottom cannot be in until retail investors have sold, in my humble opinion. I'm going to leave the video right there. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Really interested to kind of canvas your thoughts and opinions on the price action of Bitcoin and where you think things are likely to go in the kind of coming weeks and months. If you found it useful, smash that like. If you're new, subscribe. Don't forget to join us down in Discord. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.